In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. I want to say peace, love, and power to everybody tuning in right now, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I need you to stop and be present with me for a moment. You're locked in with America in Black and White, the podcast that was built for the builders, designed for the dreamers, and created for every brother and sister out there who refuses to settle for less than what they know they're called to be. I'm your host, Charles Zachary King, and today, August 11, 2026, we're doing something special. We're showing up together as we always do, because that's what watchers do. We do not disappear. We do not go silent. We show up for the people every single time. Now, let me put some respect on this moment. We're sitting in season 4, episode 125. 125 episodes this season. Think about what that number really means. 125 conversations, 125 acts of courage, 125 moments where somebody sat down and told their truth to the world. This isn't just a podcast milestone. This is a movement in motion. Every episode we drop is a love letter to Black excellence, to community accountability, to the kind of brotherhood that doesn't ask what it can be, what it can get. It asks what it can give. 125 is not a destination. It's proof that when you build with purpose, the numbers take care of themselves. We're just getting warmed up. Today's episode is one I have been genuinely looking forward to bringing to you. We're living in a time when the culture needs authentic voices, not the manufactured kind, not the algorithm chasing kind, but the real, raw, rooted kind that comes from somebody who has actually lived something. Today's guest is an artist, an entrepreneur, a thinker, and a brother who has poured everything he has into his craft and his community. He walks between worlds, the creative space, the business space, the spiritual space, and he does it with intention. His art is a mirror, his grind a message, and his presence in this space today is a gift that I don't take lightly. So if you're locked in, if you've got your earbuds in, if you're riding, working, or just trying to feed your spirit today, stay right here, because this conversation is about to feed you in ways you didn't even know you were hungry for. It is my honor, my privilege, and my genuine pleasure to bring to you a man whose artistry speaks volumes, whose story demands to be heard, and whose name, trust me, you're going to remember long after this episode ends. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, welcome to the chair, the one and only Bryan Williamson. Stage name, Bryan Zion, is in the building.
Everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
Hello, how are you,
Beautiful,
sir?
beautiful introduction, Mr. Charles Z. King. And if it's not for your sacrifice and for your endurance and for the energy that you put into this program over the years, over God's time provided to you, this would not be happening right now.
Well,
We are
you know,
most indebted to you, brother.
you're
We're
very,
most
very
indebted to
welcome.
you.
You're very
Yes.
welcome. And you know, this episode today is themed "My Brother's Watcher," and the reason being is because of the gifts of your name, but also in the spirit of the work and the contributions that you're doing for your community.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir,
I
indeed.
will. I want to say thank you to each and every individual that's watching before we get into the show, and thank each and every one of you that are always here as we start all of our shows. And I just want you guys to make sure that while we're here, please make sure that if there's questions that you have, please put them in the chat. Um, Brian, let's get into the show. And what I like to do, as I do with all shows, is I like to start by having the audience having the opportunity to get to know the person that you are before we get into the great accomplishments and things that you're doing. This is what I call your origins and identity. So, if you could take us back to the very beginning, lesson, where are you from? And what does that place mean to you when you think about who you've become?
Where I come from. Well, when most people will read the end of the story, they'll read that I was born in Tampa, Florida in 1986. You know, that I was a byproduct of generations removed from the end of a triumphant World War II generation. Home, Tampa, Florida. What does it mean to me? Well, it means the place, the touchdown, you know, the place where you start, the origin, the home. And then from there, you know, to go out and to move out into the world and do what needs to be done. And to also move the world from which you come from.
Yes, sir. And I'm sure that all of that is done with the intention for the work that you put in as well.
Absolutely.
So, how did your upbringing, your household, and the people around you shape the core of your identity? And what values from that season of your life have you carried into everything you do now?
The upbringing is extremely important. I had the blessing of being able to be raised by both father and the mother that had plans for my older sister and I, Danielle. And those plans were to make sure that they reared us up in a way into where were law abiding, of course, you know, and not, you know, out there causing mischief and so on. But at the same time, instilling us with the spirit of being able to see things clearly and being able to see through intentions and being able to see what has to be seen for the promotion of everyone worldwide. To live in a world that is open, to live in a world that is not constraining, you know, because of fears and inhibitions and poor decisions made by bad actors in the past. We have to move beyond that. And that's one of the things that they taught me. Being able to be open, being able to be firm in decisions, and being able to move in an upright way that is challenging and clear and meaningful, most of all, to all, that extends beyond our immediate time that we have here.
So, what is the one thing in your rearing as you think about those things? What is the one thing in your rearing that you still carry with you today that you will never forget?
The biggest thing is persistence. Being born and raised in the United States as a American-born African descent, okay, of slavery, those that have survived the toiling fields, okay,
Mhm.
and living in this present time and context under the guise of, oh, we moved on and you should let it go. But the healing, there's so much more healing that has to be done, and it has to be achieved legislatively in order for the real healing to take place. And that is why we're here, to write articles, to challenge the status quo, and to get people thinking about what's really going on in real time instead of painting this narrative of comfort and everyone's okay when indeed everyone isn't because of the unresolved issues of yesteryear.
Mhm. So, were there specific cultural experiences like music, church, neighborhood, family traditions that left a permanent mark on who Bryan Williamson is?
Yes, it goes down to the root for me.
Mhm.
I've had this indelible attraction to West African music. I actually wrote an article about it a couple of weeks back where it deals with the whole, Black Greek life and so on. But anyway, getting back to the story, I started listening to West African music roughly 20 years ago. Saudi Sidibe, Kouyaté. There's so many, Jaliba Kouyaté, right? Just to name the two eminent artists that I've been focused on for these last few. And learning the language and listening to the words and getting into the rhythm and getting into the natural, instinctual, ancestral energy that defines our experience and not living in denial and not living in this system of the now, the here and now, but indeed willing to open up my ears and my eyes to what made the Black America that we see today. Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, if I were to play music from West Africa, next to music from Greece, okay, in a room full of people, I'm pretty sure, beyond a reasonable doubt, that most of us would respond positively to the first selection. I know it. Okay. And it's about getting other people to be exposed to that truth and to that reality and not simply limiting yourself to this experience, knowing it in full, but also being able to expand this banner and shield to the world. Right. So
Right.
that's just a wholesome, full knowledge of everything. Right. And just this total awareness, but most of all, the curiosity and not being afraid how others will receive how you receive knowledge.
So, tell me about the West African music and why is it such a dear part of music to you?
Farafina Tile Yembe Fefoli, West African music. I'm speaking of a mannequin now, which
Okay.
is spoken in West Africa and Mali. And many other people that are watching, will be able to identify this readily. Again, these languages never left us. Okay, they may have been violently ripped from us through the trade. And then for those that make the argument that Blacks have always been here too, yes, that is also true. But also, getting into the languages that were prior to the introduction of Anglophone English and French and German and so on, right? And but again, being able to just listen. And that's one thing that I can say that I can look back in my life that I learned how to listen to things carefully and intently. Okay. And with the purpose of wanting to take what I heard, synthesize it, and be able to produce it back in a way into where others can gravitate. So a reprogramming, if you will, a decolonization of the mind, if you will, in real time.
Right. So, when you look in the mirror today, who do you see? How do you define yourself beyond the titles, beyond the artist, entrepreneur, or public figure?
I see someone that is coming into the position to lead, to tell the truth, and to be forthright about what needs to be addressed now in our time and context. Because we only have one go on the merry-go-round.
Right.
And if you go on the merry-go-round and you enjoy that go, you remember how much you enjoyed it. Conversely, if you go around that merry-go-round and you don't enjoy it, you will also remember that as well. So you have to make choices that align with your spirit and what you want to see in this world before you leave.
Were there moments in your earlier life when your identity felt under pressure? Were there moments where you had to fight to hold on to who you really were?
Absolutely. It's a numbers game, Mr. King. We account for less than 15% of the population. When I walk outside of my door, that's what people see. That's what I see. That's what we've all been acculturated to see. So you're either going to, live in this fantasy world of denial, or you're going to confront what is long needed to be confronted, okay, which is these issues and how this country was built and how people were exploited and their time and energy extracted and stolen uncompensated for this continuity that parades itself as the standard of the globe. That needs to be addressed. And that is what runs in my veins when I get out of my bed every day.
Oh,
I want
wow.
people to see that. Okay. And most importantly, I want to live it. Okay. Because believe you me, brother, others are living their reality to the fullest. They're not denying, they're not diminishing, they're not hiding it. Okay. So that's all there is to it.
So, what is something about your roots that you think most people would be surprised to know something that doesn't necessarily show up on the surface of your public persona?
Well, when most people see the name Brian Williamson, again, it's all speculation as to what they're thinking. I don't know what people think. Okay. But I do know what people see for those that have sight. Okay. And from that alone, okay, can be gained from body language and from people and from how people position themselves. Case in point, earlier this morning, in earlier meetings with potential people of the future, being able to see them and study them, and just get a sense of, their position, if you will. Everyone has a position. Okay, some are positioned high, others positioned low. Okay, wherever you do interpret this, some are positioned in, some are positioned out, but everyone has a position, most certainly. And it's about being aware to the fullest extent as to how positioned you are in your life and in your experience on this rock.
Let's move over to your artist journey, the music, and all of those wonderful things that you're doing. When did you first realize, like, truly feel like in your chest that you were a creative? What was that moment or season that made it undeniable?
When I was singing songs that made sense with wiping sweat off my brow up in New York many years ago, back in 2013, in a restaurant called Sugar Hill. And some of y'all know it. And some of y'all probably like, oh my, oh, this all is clear now. Perhaps, yeah. But it was really that experience that where I began to develop more into an artist. I started looking at things and I started creating music that matched that mood and that energy that I was interpreting and synthesizing in my brain. And many songs that captured the essence of life as American-born African descent in America, Babylon Down, how the police are engineered from the killing fields of slavery to target and hunt Black people, okay? And how the insurance companies, and their trickery, create all of these different mechanisms and wordings and so on to be able to delegate different peoples to different levels of society, okay? Songs like "State of Swing," which is essentially the hallmark of the album "State of Swing," which was released in 2023. Took many years to develop it. It had beautiful songs, but that covered the essence of work and labor, and having to put that energy in to get something back in return, to be able to keep doing it again, to be able to keep living, to be able to build and get beyond living survival, to be able to thrive and so on. So it's a journey.
So, walk us through the evolution of your artistry. How has the way you create, what you create, and why you create changed over time?
Well, we all change, we all don't stay the same, but some things do remain, and that's history. And history is what is essentially the crux of everything. I mean, it's the baseline. Everything and everyone has a history, has a story. And it is simply our job to tell our story. And that's what Bryan Zion does through the music. He tells a story, one of joy, one of peril, dynamic and especially unique in its own way, and honest, most of all.
Wow. Let's talk about the name Bryan Zion. Where did that come from? What does it mean to you? And how does it represent who you are as an artist?
I received the name Brian Zion from a bouncer, and you know who he is. Shout out One Love Flex, FLDS. He gave me my name, Brian Zion. Is what he used to call me. I was a dishwasher there at the restaurant there many years ago, helping out old Eddie Freeman and his lineage, Aaron, and so on. But yeah, it was Flex that gave me the name Brian Zion, and it stuck with me because again, the religious background, the upbringing in Christianity, also the exposure to other religions, and just the synthesis, of information and knowledge and experiences throughout time, and being able to allow myself the time and the ears to, take those things in and, making it to something that reflects an identity.
So, who are the artists, creators, or thinkers, past or present, who have had the most influence on how you approach your craft?
Well, Prince, as far as the productivity and promotion. Again, this is a show that is, under my production, and also, I get assistance from family as well, and from friends and mentors. Shout out to John Sada, Rising Sun Studios. More to come on that later. But again, it's a self-built engine, okay, a self-built car. I'm not relying on a recording contract from a major studio, producer, what have you. It's all original, it's all produced, and everything that I produce is copyrighted by the United States government. So yeah, keep that in mind. I have numbers, I have patents on all the songs that you listen to. So again, it's a process, it's work. It's a lot of work. It's not too much work. It's focused work. It's structural work. And in essence, when you really get into it and do it, it's not even work. It's just what you have to do because God commanded you to do it. And that's what I'm doing, Mr. King. I'm just doing what God is telling me to do before my time is up.
When I think about you mentioned Prince, and I got to tell you,
Yes, sir.
I am a Prince crazed individual.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about his music, his music, it touches the soul, actually, because I think a lot of people have to understand when they listen to music what it means, and I just know that that's what it means to me.
Yes, sir.
But when I think about Prince, and I think about how he did everything that he did his way, he understood, as the genius that he was, what he was creating and why he was creating that.
Right.
When you think about the influence that he has in your career and your artistry,
yes, sir.
what was at least 2 to 3 things about his creativity that caught your eye?
Number one, he was unapologetic. Okay. He lived like he needed to live. He wasn't making excuses and apologizing to everybody, for things that they did or didn't do, promises that they made or didn't keep, or what have you. Okay. He was living on the purpose and on the whip of a purpose. And when you're living on the whip of a purpose, you're going to move a lot differently than someone that's just simply floating through life. I know what it's like to have floated through life. It's not a good feeling. But you learn quite a bit from it when you're able to actually sit and reflect and look back. That's the first thing. You asked for 2, and then real quickly, the second 2 things. 2, perseverance. We know what that means. Don't stop.
Yes.
And then 3, empowerment. We know what that is.
And I think when he changed the game for all artists, especially those that were under contracts, as to what it meant to own your music.
Yes.
Because now when it comes to music, I don't hear many people today talk about contracts with these big labels. Everybody's going independent and doing their own distributions.
Right. So
I think that was the one thing that when he taught that independence, I think a lot of people still need to understand the in-depthness of everything that goes underneath that in order to make that work. But I definitely think that that's one of the things that he was a trendsetter at.
Indeed. And again, going back to that history again, and the young folks that are watching tonight, and everyone that sees it tonight, or, they're going to, it's about being able to keep going forward and doing what you need to do, and not worrying about what other people think, just focus on what you need to do. Be there for yourself, support yourself. There's times when you're down, but you can lean on the shoulder of the Creator, and He'll do what He needs to do to keep you going.
So, have you ever had a major artist pivot, like a moment where you completely shifted your sound, style, or direction? What drove that change?
Well, that change is actually in the process now. The current song that I'm working on, as far as the sound, is transitioning. It's a transitional sound compared to a reggae West African fusion bass that I ran on my opening album. I'm also starting to incorporate Arabic sound as well in my music. So again, this new track is a mix of funk, a mix of everything. You're listening to something from someone that has listened to a lot of West African music over the years and has dived deep into the rhythm, not just the rhythms, but the language and what they're saying, what they're communicating. For example, Mogate Diabe by Sume Sengeri, which means Mogate Diabe means you can't please everyone. Okay, and Bamanike. So again, when you listen to stuff, you're going to pick up on it, just like with the songs here, in America, songs in UK, and so on. Listen to it long enough, it's going to stick to you like glue, and it becomes a fabric of your DNA.
What is the piece of work, a song, a project, a performance, a moment that you feel best represents who Bryan Zion truly is?
When I'm talking about society, Please Love Everyone Tonight is an excellent example of that. We all have our differences, but if we can all come together, like money, like Prince said, money doesn't matter tonight, right? But if we can all come together in the day and just say, hey, this is what it is. And let's develop a life and let's develop policies and let's adhere to those policies that actually recognize everyone as equitable, humans, that can produce and that can have a good life and that can enjoy a good life. We all have it. Why not now? I mean, this is the most economically affluent world that we've ever had in life. And you mean to tell me we still have people that are struggling and people in poverty? Really? What's going on? I mean, there's something wrong here. And a lot of children are going to reach that reality for those that are tuned in and have developed that third eye. Okay.
Okay. Yo. Let's shift a little bit to talk about your brotherhood and community work. Let's talk about brotherhood, real brotherhood here. Do you have men in your life who truly hold you accountable and who you can be completely vulnerable with? What does that look like for you?
Absolutely. The men in my life are there for a reason. They're there for guys, and they're there to show me the things that are right and to show me the things that are wrong. Okay. Ultimate teaching 101, right? So the two men that stick out to me immediately, my father, Joe Williamson, and John Seda, my studio engineer. These men work hard, and they are the living example of what it means to persevere, of what it means to live with clarity, of what it means to do their best to be instrumental and supportive and all of the good things, right, that we were told as children growing up what constitutes as a effective, positive role model male in this working world.
This is someone just put a quote from that song that you mentioned from Prince. Money doesn't matter tonight. I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna put this on the screen. If you could respond to that, that would be great.
Oh, okay.
And it goes. So what if we're controlling all the oil? Is it worth a child dying for?
Yes. And actually, three men. There are three men. My older brother-in-law, Will Brown. And I'm very happy for him and my older sister because they just had their daughter, Alani, back in late January this year. So I'm very happy for him and her, and especially him because he is the definition. Aquarius, just like me too. We're both Aquariuses. He's a definition of somebody that, that keeps purging ahead and keeps moving forward. It doesn't matter what happens in life. People are going to throw you curveballs, but you keep moving ahead. And that's what it's about. And thank you, Will. Meow, meow. Portuguese, my brother. And that's what it's about, right? Being able to just, just be aware. And sometimes we're not going to, be aware of everything. Yes, but again, it's a process, right? Just
Yes.
like a plant, grows out of the ground. It's not going to start prop up as a tree. It starts off as a seed, a little tiny seed, and then from there it grows into this beautiful tree if nurtured.
Yeah. So tell us this: who are the mentors, formal or informal, who poured into you and helped shape the trajectory of your life? What did they give you that you couldn't have found anywhere else?
Well, my thesis advisor, from an academic standpoint, Dr. Edward Kissy, born and raised in Ghana. Well, born in Ghana, but raised in Canada. And then he found his way to the University of South Florida in 2000, in early 2000s. So as far as the organization, effort, as far as organizing your thoughts, putting everything in perspective and in category, he definitely instilled that in me during my collegiate years, of which I finished my master's degree, now 12 years now. So it's been some time. But I'm thankful for him at USF there at the Africana Studies Department. For music, John Seda of Rising Sun Studios here in Tampa, Florida. Over the years, since 2022, he's been very instrumental in helping me to refine my sound and helping to facilitate the music production portion as far as the sound and the engineering sound and techniques and all of that. But as far as the actual notation, that belongs to me. As far as the actual lyrics, that belongs to me. But as far as refining the sound, studio sound that you hear in movies and so on, I owe that to John Seda of Rising Sun Studios.
Well, there's two other things here that's been put in the chat. So I guess as you see these, you'll be able to interpret these for us.
Oh, okay.
Here's the first one there.
Meow, there in Portuguese. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this one.
Sempre, always, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. So, what does community mean to you in a real practical sense? Not just as a word, but as a way of living and moving through the world.
Being involved and with the skills that you have, with the skills that you've cultivated throughout your time. And as you continue to pass through the pendulum of time, for me, it's education. I'm an artist, I write music. That's what I do professionally. I'm an educator. I have a teaching license here in the state of Florida. I am able to teach when I'm able to get into positions where I'm able to exercise my background in history and social studies. I have a really in-depth knowledge of the history of the United States. Very in-depth.
Mm-hmm.
And these are things that need to be taught to our children now. The reason why is because you've heard of those team takeovers, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
And these, children, taken to the streets and so on. We need to produce a education system that actually allows professionals like me to work with these children consistently. We don't have that. So I had to develop my own system, which I did, Dynastic Tutors. And I had to develop a program that helps those that are, with chronically misbehaving and, making an attachment with learning through the youth social correction program. I had to create because I was excluded. I know I was excluded because, I'm holding professional degrees here. I mean, I can understand, it's a very heavy job. And there's a lot of people in Hillsborough County. I get it. Okay. People move in and all. And again, also looking at history and, looking at particularly those nativist arguments that were raised about the Americans that were born here versus those that came in and immigrated. Okay. I start to think a little bit. I start thinking a little bit, okay,
Mhm.
about that because I'm thinking to myself, what would be so bad, okay, for you to leave and go somewhere else? I understand people have war. I get it, okay, but everyone doesn't leave. I do know that. Everyone can't leave. I do know that. Going back to American history, and I'll just leave you with this point, okay? I wish I can give you the full breakdown. Dynastic Tutors, that's why I'll be able to do it, folks. I'll be able to give you the full rundown so that you'll be able to see everything clearly, okay? But I'll tell you this. Only a fourth of the black population moved up north. Do you know why?
They said it was because of manufacturing jobs and the Great
Mhm,
Migration.
mhm. But only a fourth of the entire Black American population moved north. Only a fourth of the entire population. Why was that?
That's a good question. Tell us why.
The reason why was money, or rather lack of. People that could not leave were not able to secure the means to be able to leave. They had to stay and were bound to the sharecropping fields just like their ancestors before them in slavery. That is why. But for those that were able to leave and go north, they did. That's something that they don't tell you in middle school and history classes. And that's something that you need to know, that every child should know. That there's a great battle waging right now in our United States. And it's a battle of clarity. We have people in power that wish not to be clear about life. And we have people that are coming up that wish to set that clarity once and for all.
The show tonight is called Am I My Brother's Watcher? So I have to ask, what does being your brother's watcher mean to you personally? And how do you practice it in your daily life?
It means being aware. It means being able to keep touch and keep base with everyone. See how they're doing. You want to be a Beauregard, if you will. People have their own lives. I get it. I understand. But just to be there, just to be someone that they can listen to when they need to be a bulwark of society, if you will, a stable block. And that's what got me into education, because the youth really resonate with people that they can feel and that they can sense that stability in. And I believe that's what I provide emotionally is stability. I'm always there. Sometimes I may be absent, but for the most part, it's a strong percentage, right? And
Mhm.
strong percentages, 80 and above, are usually ones that are uh, definitely firm. So being a someone that people can rely on, being there in those tough times, in those soft times, but most importantly, in those tough times, we're the warrior class here, and we have to stand our ground for our future generation. I see what's going on, and I'm not going to hide or live in denial of it. Instead, I'm going to produce material that gets people to see that and be honest about it.
Have you ever had to have hard conversations with someone you love, a truth telling moment because you were watching out for them, even when it was uncomfortable?
Absolutely. Uh, Past coworkers, past people that I've had the opportunity of having and sharing space with, in the environment of school. And, just being that firm, person of endurance, regardless of what they throw at you. Because if it wasn't for the teachers, if it wasn't for our consistency at the bottom, you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing. So, again, just being honest and recognizing where power is actually being produced and coming from. Because if I weren't here right now today, how much less power would we have? Right? You and all others. If everyone would just miraculously disappear and those with so much power left behind, what would they have then? Right? So again, the pendulum of a time swings. Today we're here, tomorrow we're gone. So try not to get too comfortable. but at the same time, lead something that is going to drive others that are having to endure the simulation called life.
So, what do you think is the biggest breakdown happening in male relationships and community accountability right now? And what do you think the solution looks like?
Well, going back to the reason why a majority of American-born African descents were not able to travel north. It's economics and the intentional withholding of resources, the withholding of mobility, because that's what resources are. It means to be able to move and come and go as you please. And the systematic generational withholding of resources is the reason why we have a society that is at the spectrum that it is, as what we see when we look at our statistics and the family and so on, talking about dynamics and so on. So again, it all comes back to resources or lack thereof, and being honest about it and creating a society that actually legislates that balance of equity. Okay. So that we all win. Think about it. Everyone gets a jump in their ability to be able to purchase, just like in the 1940s, right? The New Deal, right?
Yep.
What happened? Everyone prospered. Well, not everyone, but quite a few people prospered. Okay. A majority prospered. Okay. In the books, in black and white, right? So that's also what's missing, right? And the same elder generations, right? They say, oh, that's a real handout. But it was that same government handout that allowed such a huge rise in the population that we witnessed at the end of 1945 and 1960 and so on. So if the government did not show that economic leverage, to its citizenry people, right? And then I also begin to think and wonder, perhaps all of this is intentional. Maybe they want to lower the numbers. But again, the bottom line is we have to produce young people that can critically think, but most importantly, act on the conclusions that they reach from their work.
Let's talk a little bit about faith, purpose, and mindset. Let's go deep for a minute here. What role does spirituality or faith play in your life, your creativity, and the decisions you make?
A tremendous one, Mr. King. And the reason why is because without faith, without hope, right, without this definitive definition of balance, right, as you were told in school, what does balance mean, right? Do you see it in life, tangibly, in the real world amongst peoples? Right. That's what it is, yeah? So faith and just this undying spirit and energy from the source of creation itself that keeps me moving and pushing in this place. And that's all I can say.
Just when you think about faith, because, with there being several religions out here and people serving and they calling all these different gods and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. When we think of the true meaning of what it is to be Christian, is the fact that this all started at the motherland in Ethiopia with the real Bible.
Correct.
So with that, how are we what is your opinion of the teachings that they're doing with these variations of Christianity with all these churches in America? Because
I understand.
It's doing a whole bunch of stuff, And so how do you know, how can people say, well, this is real and this is not real?
Well, faith, religion, Hindu, Shinto, there's so many, it's a diversity, like flowers, right?
Right.
And again, it's going back to the West African music. It's what resonates with you, Hinduism, the teachings of Hinduism resonate with one man or one woman. The teachings of atheism resonate with another woman, another man. Again, it's what you've been exposed. It's also your exposure to, growing up as a child And it really begins there, Again, this is coming from the middle school teacher, okay? And, someone that has worked with children that are transitioning from youth into adulthood. And that's a pivotal age because that's the age where you essentially find yourself. You'll find the identity that you're going to be essentially for the rest of your life at that age. Yes, believe it or not, 14, yeah, 13. As I remember vividly when I was 13, 14 years old and what was in my mind and what I wanted, what I didn't, okay? So again, everyone has a taste, it's a litany of tastes out there. Everyone, to each his own. And, what drives you. All I have to say is this to this, as long as you're producing something that is hurting, not harming people, right? You're producing something that's helping people to see the light and free themselves from these constraints and these falsities that we erect in the so-called name of safety and security, right? We just be honest and true with each other, right? We can, absolutely, and we shall.
So, how do you define your purpose? Not just what you do, but why do you believe you're here? What you were put on the earth to accomplish?
Well, unfinished business. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, the business is not done. It's not done yet. And it's beautiful because there are a lot more of us now than there were back in those days. And that's the beauty of it. Multiplying like dandelions. It's beautiful because that's what truth does when it's been contained for so long. It multiplies. That's what it does. It expands on a plane that has been designed to keep it contained. Like Tupac with the rules, like Tupac, right? With the rules growing out of the concrete, right? Same thing. There are forces that have been put here to suppress growth, and there are forces that have been put here to support it. And I'm a plant looking for my sun, looking for my water, and looking for my soil. And also batting away the predators that are trying to chew away at my leaves so that I can produce beautiful fruit that will keep the planet alive.
When life gets heavy, and we all know it does, what keeps you anchored? What keeps Bryan Williamson from drifting?
Perseverance, purpose, and the music, the writing, everything that you see, everything that is presented by choice. I don't present everything, but the things that you're able to access, okay, those things. And just the inner calm, and not even that, just the inner calmness of being able to get up every morning. It may not be the best day, but I'm thankful and I'm forever grateful for the blessing and for the support that I have in my life, that I do have in my life. And I'm taking what I have and working towards multiplying it, not burying the gifts, if you will, if I can, refer to the Bible once more, not burying the gifts. They're here. They're available for everyone to see and hold and have your own peace, right? If you will. And not just to have it, but for it to be a memory, okay? A memory, because that's what this all is, right? A beautiful, big, beautiful memory.
Yeah, and so, well, before I move on here, there's a comment here that agrees with you on that previous question. I'll put it here for you on the screen. It says exactly is what resonates with you when you were talking about the religions. Can you tell us, do you have a morning routine, a ritual, or practice that sets the tone for how you show up every day? Tell us what that looks like.
Absolutely. Well, my routine typically begins at 5 o'clock in the morning. And some days it may begin later at 7, but for the most part, it is 5 a.m. That's the time that I'm up. That's the time that I am not looking at technology or trying to immediately distract myself with the ways of the world. It's the time to say, good morning, Bryan, to check in, to see where we are, and to see where we need to go. And I always open up with this line: order my steps, God, for today. Give to me what it is I need to do for today, and it will be done, my Lord. on earth as it is in heaven.
If you had to write a personal mission statement, just a sentence or two that captures what you are about at your absolute core, what would it say?
It would say that I am passing through this time, and there are things that I had to see, and there are things that I have to leave. And I'll leave it at that.
How do you protect your peace and your mental health in an industry and a world that can be relentlessly demanding? What boundaries have been non-negotiable for you?
Knowing that everything is temporary, knowing that everything does not last always, that it too shall pass, that power that you hold today will be no more tomorrow, or conversely, powerlessness today, powerful tomorrow. So again, it's a pendulum, it swings. It's not certain, it's not permanent. The only quote unquote permanence that we have is the one that we assign, right? From our choice to choose to remember. But that's it.
And just thinking about that because I don't know, I guess would that also be like depending upon the person because there are some people that has this thing of course they call it OCD. There's
Oh,
some people that are
yes.
just compulsive
Uh-huh.
with just making it right. The appearance has to be right. And so sometimes those things can be hard to let go. I mean, have you ever been in a situation like that, or what makes it so hard? You think for those that have the OCD that can't let go?
Well, I battled with this myself for a long time. It's the idea of control. You grow up, you see chaos around you, and you want to correct it. You want to fix it. And it's like, why can't it? Why can't we do this now, right?
Right.
And then just being honest about that, and just saying, okay, well, you can't control the stars and the sun. You've just been given a certain assignment, so you just have to, control that. That's all there is to it. And that's all there is to it. You just, because sometimes we get into that God complex. Oh, everything will be perfect. No, it doesn't actually. Sometimes, going to color outside the lines, if you will. Now, don't swerve if you drive, because, right. But you know what I mean.
Right.
So that's what it is, Mr. King. Just again, going back to that word, awareness, perseverance, and just doing what you need to do.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm one of those that struggle with OCD. And so,
Okay.
I try real hard. Oh my God, I try real hard to not to, let so many things kind of like stick in my craw and in my mind
Mhm.
because I'm both visual and
Mhm.
auditory.
Yes, sir.
And so to actually see something that's not right and I have nothing whatsoever to do with it. And when I see it, I'm just like, oh my God, is this real?
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
and it's one of those things that I can accept it and I can understand that, but it's
Uh-huh.
like, well, let's just try, let's fix it up, let's make
Right.
it right.
Exactly. Right. Let's and
But it don't happen that way. And
no.
so it's like I have to work really hard on myself and I try to stay, pretty calm about a lot of things,
Yes, sir.
especially when I know that it's like something that could be done with intentions.
Right.
But I just think that a lot of those things sometimes, even though we don't we know that they're beyond our control, but
Hmm.
it's like we just want to make it like be the
Make
best
it
that it
so.
was supposed to be.
Hmm. Indeed. We just want to make it so. And
Right.
especially when you see other people around you, quote unquote, making it so. So
Yeah.
again, you know, again, just being aware of that and just going forward and leaving something that's going to inspire people. Okay.
Yes.
Leaving something that's going to say, don't give up, kids. You have the rest of your life. Make wise decisions now. Be consistent. and it will pay off. Not in this life, but certainly the next. Okay.
Right.
There is such thing as karma, you know.
Let's talk a little bit about your entrepreneurship and the business of art.
Oh, indeed.
When did you start to see your artistry as a business, and what was the learning curve like when you made the mental shift?
I began seeing my artistry as a business in 2022. So I'm still young, you know, I'm still coming up the pipe, you know. And being exposed to sound engineer, John Seda, and the diligence that that man displays on a regular, you know, and just that ongoing energy, you know, that is productive and that is leaving something that touches the lives of everyone. And that's the energy I wish to replicate, you know, for myself and for those that I love and for the world beyond. Is an energy of expansion, of energy of empowerment, of energy of abundance, if you will, in realness, you know, in intangibles, right, and resources. That indeed, you know, we have a beautiful, abundant world where everyone can have what they need. Okay, granted, you know that need doesn't exceed, right, you know, excessively, if you will, but again, reasonable. So again, that's the word, reasonable, right, within reason.
So, how are you monetizing your creativity right now? What does the business
Mhm.
architecture behind Bryan Zen
Mhm.
actually look like?
Oh, okay. So I had the album on sale now. You can purchase the entire State of Swing album now. Am I able to share my screen?
No,
Oh,
actually,
no. Okay. Uh,
no.
oh,
But
okay.
we're actually going to I put some of that out on in the YouTube description, but we'll do more of that after the show.
Oh, okay, Roger that. Okay, well, I didn't know. I mean, I was getting back in that teacher mode again. You know how it is. You know the screen. You know to share the screen teaching. All right, but yeah. So it's already had the album State of Swing, which you can visit at Push FM. Push FM. That's the entire album. All 10 songs that were written initially back in the 20 teens, mastered into audible music sound. You can also buy the singles on Spotify and SoundCloud. You can purchase the singles. Also, YouTube. You can listen to the music on YouTube as well. I also have a site there, Bryan Zion, YouTube. So there are many different platforms that I have. I also have Mr. King, the State of Swing store, where I sell apparel that essentially goes with the music and the record label, Zion Line Records.
Oh
So
wow!
a printify store where you can purchase blankets, hats. You can even put in a specialization for a specialized order, if you will. Just drop me a link, you know, email, you know, tell me what you want. I can make it for you, and we can make it happen.
And what is the biggest business mistake you've made as a creative entrepreneur? And what did losing teach you what winning never could?
Well, the biggest business mistake I made so far would be, I guess, just the overall excitement. Maybe you know, releasing certain details too soon. This is in reference to the youth social correction program. Hopefully, I'll be able to get just a tinsy bit more detail, perhaps another time. But again, I'm just excited about releasing, excuse me, programs that are actually going to help people in real time and fairness. Because again, it's not coming from the position of, I have this leverage and this, what do you call it? This I'm insulated. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm not coming from the position of insulated, where I'm insulated from society, like a lot of professionals tend to present themselves. Okay, I'm available. I'm here. I'm a human being. I'm living. I'm drawing blood. Talk to me, and I'll talk to you, and I'll tell you what I know.
So, like with this, because as you were mentioning, the work that you do as far as the other business that you have, your tutoring
Mhm.
that you do.
Mhm.
Tell us how did you get into that, and what made you go to that next level of making that your business?
Education is the key to the continuity of civility. of culture, of identity. And we need a tutoring program that is designed to do just that, to tell the history, to teach them the economics, to give them the things that traditional settings, and I'm using that word traditional because it's coded, it's loaded. You'll read more about that on LinkedIn, my LinkedIn articles, because I explain all that in detail, by the way. But, we're moving away from more traditional formats of teaching, okay, and of education. Okay, the children of today are very much engaged in things that are exciting and high flying. The first thing that comes to mind, if you will, is Fortnite, right? So we got to present the knowledge that's fun and then engaging, but at the same time also true and honest to the concrete realities of what we're all facing right now in real time. And Dynastic Tutors provides that, that groundedness, and making sure that our middle school and high school students are equipped with the knowledge of American civics and history, especially, so that they can step into this world armed and ready to be able to defend and safeguard against those that have been reared and raised to attack other cultural realities.
So in doing the tutoring, and I understand the educational perspective that you brought in that you just mentioned, but from the overall perspective, I mean, what are you expecting from your business in doing this, that you're going to be able to build, not just with the community, but with the folk in the community that need to learn the things that you're helping them with?
How? By constantly being there. Not at the same, inundating, right, if you will. Okay. Just like our media, when we get up every day, Mr. King, we're being inundated with ads. Buy this, buy that, right? You need this. You need that. You need this. You do. It will change your life. And it change the way that you look at this world, particularly the structure that we find ourselves in. And you will live according to the history that has been developing, right? And moving beyond that too, but also being grounded in that, okay? Because everyone else outside of your reality and disposition are certainly grounded there, okay? And don't be mistaken, all right?
So, what is the biggest business win you've had? A moment where you feel like all of the sacrifices was validated?
And looking and seeing, right, the sacrifices. I know that this is working for the right reason, because I know, because Mr. King, because it is, and it's moving and it's real and it lives and it's available, right? And it's here to instill truth into the lives of our youth, so that they can move forward, right? Not blind, not unaware, not moving targets, okay? But indeed, impenetrable force, all right? Now, I'm not saying this to say, oh, paranoid, look at your shoulder, but you do have to be aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah, you do.
Been around. They see you. And, a lot of them like the front like they don't, but they see you in traffic. I see you. I see you.
The economics of being an independent creative can be brutal. What would you tell a young artist who wants to do this full time about the money side of the game that nobody warned you about?
Skills. You have to have skills, inside music, outside music. You have to have multiple money making stream skills. Okay. Everything is getting expensive. I know we hear this all the time. We're being inflated, here to the ends of time. Certainly not the economic conditions that our forebears had. So it's about being able to get as much as you can, so that you can do more, and so that more people can have more. Because again, the more that you have, the more you're able to give, the more people you're able to help. So again, it's a cycle. And being able to understand that indeed money is water, and being able to develop and cultivate a positive relationship with that water, so that it can continue to flow.
How do you think about building a brand that outlasts trends? something that is still standing and still relevant 5 or 10 years from now?
Well, for me, from the artist standpoint, the lyrics. Listen to the music. Listen to Bryan Zion's songs, particularly "State of Swing," "Babylon Down," particularly those that are politically charged. I'm telling you what's going on. Okay. And
Let's
yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I'm
No,
telling you
go
what's
ahead.
going on. Yeah, I'm just
No,
saying.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm telling you what's going on. That's all. Telling you what's going on.
Let's move over to culture, media, and your representation.
Uh-huh.
What is your honest assessment of the current state of Black media and Black content creation? What's working, what's not, and where are the gaps?
Content creation. What works? Let's start with what works. No, let's start with what doesn't work, and then I'll finish with the things that do work. Let's finish on a high
Okay.
note, right? So, what doesn't work? What we call old Black media, Tom Joyner, and so on. And I'm just repeating what I've been hearing on the new Black media. Okay, these older guards, right? As far as the social political orientation of American-born African descents in the United States, moving beyond civil rights, and being hogtied to the Democratic Party.
Yes.
Okay, and I talk about that in my song "State of Swing." It doesn't matter if you're voting Republican or Democrat; they all have an agenda, and that agenda is not our empowerment. You know how I know? You're hearing it right now. If it wasn't the case, I would not be talking right now. We would not be on the show right now. Okay, that's how I know it's the case.
Well, I agree with you 500% on that. I really do. And I just hope that, as the days go by, people's eyes will start to open where they actually get to see that real scope for what it is.
Mhm.
Because when it comes to all of that, I just stay neutral of it because for me, I don't support a party.
Mhm.
And so I have to make sure that I stay that way,
Mhm.
but I do talk about what's happening from that whole entire scope because
Mhm.
I think it's also important that we be informed about that because there's some decisions that we are going to have to make in order to at least breathe to
Mhm. Right.
move forward. So I mean, but yeah, I agree with you 500% because I just could never be tied to a political party because I know that neither of them mean me any good.
You know what they are, Mr. King? Political parties in the United States are theatrics. That's what they are. It's just like the declining Roman Empire of old. In the final days of the empire, before the barbarians came in, that they relied on for military protection, mind you. Yeah, relied on the barbarians to keep them protected. Isn't that something? But anyway, yeah, and that's what it is. We're in the declining days. It's all theatrics before God, the Creator, reigns all of that evil in and disperses the good out. And that's all I can say about it. And we're at the precipice of that shift right now.
Who do you think is getting it right in the culture right now? Who is an example of the kind of creative leadership that you respect and want to see more of?
3 names. I'm going to drop three podcasts. The first is, of course, Mr. Charles Z. King. And I am gratefully indebted to you, sir. This platform, right? Because you are making this a reality now by projecting it. You could have chosen not to say, "Oh, no, pass some bribes," right? Just like
Right.
the hiring managers, right, do at these various places, right? But you said, yeah, and you opened up a whole world that the world needed to hear. Okay, so I thank you for that. Thank you, I really do. 2,
Mhm.
Professor Black Truth. He puts videos on daily, and he talks about the news affecting Black America. And very instrumental in his work over the years in making sure that we know what's going on. And then also, too, the other program that he puts up is the crime report where he follows the criminal behaviors of the white majority. The third is Jason Black of Shreveport, Louisiana. He has two platforms: The Business, which is on Friday nights, which deals with the power relationships between men and women, black men and black men and black women, particularly, but in general, men and women in general. Where he talks about, popular entertainers, Russell Wilson and so on, right? And he analyzes all of them, right? And then the other show he broadcasts is on Saturdays and Sundays. It's called the Black Authority. It comes on at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, usually. And he covers the news like Professor Black Truth. But again, unlike Professor Black Truth, this is a little bit more engaging and long. Usually shows last about 2 or 3 hours. And he's the only person that I know that actually allows people to call in, that allows the actual Black community and community abroad to call in and talk, and support their claims that are made on the show. So that is what really inspired me as far as a community building effort and the continuity of Black community building in the United States through these three platforms, sir.
You know what? See, that's the way to do it. That's a great ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's
that's
beautiful.
Great ecosystem because to attack it from more than one side and to break it down.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need to know. But see, again, that's where people that need to hear and learn,
Mm-hmm.
Need to get the real situations.
Right. And not that cookie cutter stuff that they do in the grade schools, and then they come out here and they're unprepared. And, and it's like, you're not teaching our children economics and, and stocks and, what to buy, what not to buy, when to hold, when to sell, all of that. It's like, you need to teach them these things in grade school, You need to know all of that. And I can provide all of that, Dynastic Tutors, right? So again, I had to create these platforms, Mr. King. I had the opportunity of working in these structures. Some of them are very positive and effectual, and I can tell you others aren't. Okay, and we need to be honest about what we're doing on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. What are youth at the structural country, local, country, federal level?
Where do you see the most dangerous representation gaps? The images, the stories about Black people that are missing or being told wrong?
It is a giant campaign of misinformation. Again, going back to the numbers of population, you have roughly 85% of your population here in the United States that identifies as white. Okay, so that's Hispanics and Greeks, Italians, you name it. Okay, and the proximity to whiteness. I'll talk about that in my articles on LinkedIn. Okay, you'll be able to read that and find detail and research and all. Okay, so again, it's really a numbers game, and like in all societies, you're going to have a small population that will get the consequences of the larger population at large. Okay, or the leftovers, if you will, of such civilizations, and it spans back in history. It goes along. There's many societies in the present and in the past that operate on this, tandem. So it's about, just being aware of that and being honest about that and advocating like Fannie Lou Hamer did, right? Remember what Fannie Lou Hamer did? Yes, that woman, that beautiful woman, indeed. And many others, that actually advocated and were consistent about it and kept constantly beating that drum until they moved, right, on it, like we saw in the 1960s. But now our generation wants to see reparations for slavery. I want to see the resources. I want the mobility restored to me that has been socially historically denied. If it is not, the consequences moving forward throughout time are dire for all of us, for us all.
That is true. What does responsible storytelling look like to you as a Black creator, and how do you hold yourself accountable to that standard in your own work?
Being true and honest to who I am, how I'm seen, how I'm perceived. Because remember, we all are essentially a synthesis of what we experience, what we see, what we feel, right? What we touch and so on. Okay. And you are hearing and speaking to nothing more than one synthesis of that reality. just like with you, sir. Your reality, Mr. King, your life, your experiences, what you saw coming up in the most definitive time of American history that we all know. Okay. And how you felt and what you felt and what inspired you and pushed you to create an open platform to allow the continuity of this truth to sound through the waves, right? And to combat against this systematic silencing, if you will, of our realities through lack of hire, through passing up people with advanced degrees in place of people that have not had the experiences and the wherewithal. Okay, so again, that's what you see, right? And how you respond to what you see, how you act to what you see, will determine who and how you will be remembered. And that's all I have to say.
So, if you could change one thing about how Black culture is consumed, packaged, and distributed in mainstream media right now,
My Lord.
what would it be?
If I could be president of the United States, it would be a severe campaign of social historical acculturation. Okay, for our Black youth, it would be a requirement that they learn an African language. It would be a requirement that they listen and adapt and take on, not completely, but expose yourself. Please just expose yourself to it at least and listen to it. Okay. And it's not perfect. All right. Again, when we listen to the arguments that have been advanced, of course, and supportedly by Professor Black Truth and Jason Black on our platforms, and absolutely so. All right. But at the same time, being able to just say, hey, since we've all been systematically lumped and categorized into this Black category, let's go and compare notes. Let's go ahead and see what's going on globally.
That experience could be one that actually changes the whole world.
Absolutely.
What is your message to young Black creators who are trying to find their place in an industry that has historically profited from their genius while minimizing their ownership?
You have to control your own boat. You have to build it and you have to steer it. That's all I can tell you. You can sign up with these record labels, That's fine. Good with your money, that's good. There are plenty of success stories out there that we can all read about, undoubtedly. However, there are many, many, many stories of those that are signed with record labels. And the outcome wasn't so good. So it's about being aware, doing your research. You're going to read a lot, people. You're going to read a lot, and sometimes you're going to be tired, have to take a little nap. But get up and keep reading and keep learning, because that's what you need to do. Because the more you learn, the more leverage you will have in being able to pass through this pendulum of this experience called life.
So let's do this segment here. This is what I'm going to call rapid fire and fan favorites. I'm going to shoot some things out to you, and I need to get your response.
Okay.
First one is favorite meal, the one that hits every single time, no matter what.
Oh, no matter what. Well, it's going to be give me a fried chicken leg with some mashed potatoes and lima beans. Or we could substitute the lima beans. We could substitute the potato starch for the macaroni and cheese, right? that one there. And then the other one is the chicken stew with beef patty. I can't explain. Yep, born and raised in Tampa, but that Caribbean, some good, it's good cuisine. It's good cuisine.
Hidden talent. What can you do that most people in your world don't even know about?
Hidden talent. Well, a lot of people don't know that I am multilinguist. I speak multiple languages.
Last song played. What was the last track you had to repeat, and why does it have your attention?
The last track that I had to repeat as far as the music that I composed, or
Just the last song played. It could be that.
oh, the last song that I played. Oh, that's well, I was listening. The last song that I listened to earlier today was Salih Sidibe, traditional music, where they're talking about traditional life in the country. And I listen to the words. Some of the words I can actually interpret. Others I'm still learning. So, but when I listen to that music, I'm just so calm and I just feel so natural. I can explain it. I mean, it's like it's me.
Advice to your 18-year-old self. If you could pull up young Bryan right now and give him one piece of real talk, what would you say?
Keep going, young man. You have a bright future ahead. All you have to do is just persevere. And should it be God's will for you to live in prosperity, you will. And if not, you will too. But just know that everything is temporary and that you're only passing through this time to leave something behind of value, if you can.
One word, just one word that you feel describes who you truly are at your core. What is it?
Continuity. Moving forward, in spite of the yes or no's that I get, and I'm going to keep going. And I'm going to keep producing. And I'm going to keep living the life that God gave me to live. Because this is the only one that I know. And that I'm going to share the things that I learned. And that hopefully they're received, with patience and grace.
Message to the people, everyone watching and listening right now from every walk of life. What do you want to leave them with today?
Don't give up. Don't quit. Keep going. No matter how painful it is. Growth is pain. Okay. And if you're afraid to feel pain, then there's a pretty good chance that you're not growing.
That's interesting, but that's also very strong there. And I think a lot of people need to make sure they receive that, because some people actually quit, especially when they're going and get stuff.
And especially when they're accustomed and used to having everything to begin with, comfortable, plush, covered lives, if you will.
So, what are some words of wisdom and encouragement you'd like to leave for our audience? Tell them how to connect with you via social media, your website, how to purchase your album, books, all your merchandise, all of those good things.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with the name Bryan Williamson there below for the LinkedIn articles to read on various topics that I cover. The most recent one that I published was on the speed limit. And, the average speed, believe it or not, across the United States is 27 miles an hour. And then I had some people, hit on me and all of that. But again, just to stir conversation on various topics, get people talking about things that we take for granted. Right? Especially that.
Yes, sir. Sir, anything else?
Oh, absolutely. And then finally, from the artist side, so academically, it was Bryan Williamson, right? Dynastic Tutors. And then on the artist side, Bryan Zyin, BRYINZYIN. Check out the music, check out the websites, all of the links that I provided. Also to very, very, very active on LinkedIn. So you can reach out to me there. I appreciate your time, everyone. God bless you all.
And also, you can find Bryan also on YouTube. The same name,
on YouTube.
Bryan Zyin.
Bryan Zyin, yes, sir. Bryan Zyin 01 on YouTube. Bryan Zyin 01 on YouTube, like Matrix 00101, right? So, so check me out. Give it a listen. Nice, smooth, new Tampa groove. It's American music. The continuing the tradition of Charlie Chaplin and all the others, right? Scott Joplin and all the others, right? Scott Joplin, right? wrong name, right?
So as as I close, I'm going to close with the monologue. But can you do you have a few minutes after I close the show?
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely.
Alrighty. I want to thank each and every of you, every individual that has watched the show and been with us for the entire time. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your support. I would appreciate it for those that are first-time listeners or first-time watchers, and for those that have not yet done this. If you have not yet subscribed and enabled all notifications on any of our YouTube channels, I ask if you would please support us by doing so. I do appreciate that, because what it allows you to do is you'll be able to get the notifications to watch each and every time we go live. You're also able to go back and check out all the previous recordings, and you will get the opportunity to learn the information, the messages that our great professionals have left to help each and every individual to grow and to be more than just a part of the community, but to help to build it. As I close with this monologue, I want to say this. This is in dedication to tonight's show and my brother's watcher, that these words are very deep and sentiment, and the meaning is definitely what you all should receive. Man, I need a minute, because that right there, what just happened in this conversation, that was a gift. Bryan Williamson, Bryan Zion, brother, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up to this space the way you did. You didn't give us the highlight reel version. You gave us the real version, the scars, the wisdom, the joy, the grit, all of it. And that takes a level of courage that I don't take lightly. This chair is sacred, and you honored it. You honored the audience. You honored this show. And I want you to know that on behalf of everyone who pressed play today, we see you, we appreciate you, and we are rooting for everything that you're building. What struck me most about this conversation was the thought line, this consistent, unshakable thread of purpose. Whether we were talking about art, business, brotherhood, or legacy, it all came back to the same thing. Bryan knows why he is here. He knows who is doing it for, who he's doing it for, and that kind of clarity is rare. We talked about what it means to be your brother's watcher, and he showed us right here. What that looks like in practice, it looks like honesty, it looks like showing up, it looks like using your platform to say the things that need to be said, even when it's easier to be quiet. I hope you heard that. I hope you felt that. Now I need to speak directly to you, whoever you are, wherever you are listening from right now. You just sat in on a masterclass, not an academic one, a life one. And the question I'm leaving you with today is this: what are you doing with your gifts? Not what you are planning, not what you are dreaming about. What are you actually doing? Because Bryan Zion's story isn't about talent, it's about choice. He chose to create when it was hard. He chose to build when others were tearing down. He chose to pour into his community when the world told him to focus on himself. You have that same choice every single day. Make it count. If this episode added value to you, your life, and I believe it did, do us a favor and make sure somebody else gets to hear it too. Hit that subscribe button, drop a 5-star review, share this episode with a brother who needs it, a sister who's building something, a young person who needs a reminder that their gifts are enough. Every share is an act of community. Every review keeps this thing going. We do this for the culture, and the culture is all of us. I am Charles Zachary King, and this has been Am I My Brother's Watcher? Season 4, episode 125. Until the next time, keep watching, keep growing, and never forget, you are your brother's watcher.